Everyone in the world pretty much knows a lot about Adolf Hitler. He was the leader of the Nazi Party in the 1930s and 40s. He rose to become dictator through propaganda and promises to rebuild Germany, and through that he waged war on the entire world to establish the Third Reich. In that process, he killed millions of Jews and minorities to cleanse the German race. Since he's so well known, everyone thinks they're an expert on him. They think he was a military genius and he was a strong and powerful person. And actually, he was actually pretty weak behind the scenes. He suffered from bad health and several psychological problems. Also, many things about his life remain mysterious, especially his relationship with Eva Braun and his last days that he spent in Berlin. Today, I want to talk to you about Hitler's physical health, his mistress Eva Braun, and the last days of his life. First, I want to talk about his health. His health was always in question. According to Alan Bullock in his book, Hitler, A Study of Tyranny, he was originally rejected from military and auxiliary service, but was eventually let in, only to be injured by an incoming mortar shell and blinded by mustard gas. He had to be sent back to Germany to be interned in a hospital. From a very young age, he complained of stomach pains and was supposedly suffered from insomnia, which is the inability to sleep. He was a vegetarian, and he abstained from alcohol and drugs, but he also didn't exercise, which probably would result in some health problems. Starting in 1943, he started to have tremors in the left side of his body, for which there was no cure. In order to alleviate these symptoms, he would jam his foot against something firm and clasp his hands to stop the shaking. In the last 6 months of his life, the tremors got really, really bad, much worse. He started walking with a hobble, and his voice was so weak that almost no one could understand it. And eventually he had to be confined to bed. From 1936 until his death, he had a personal physician named Professor Morrill, who gave him many suspicious drugs and injections. One that was actually slowly poisoning him, as found out by another doctor. When that doctor tried to tell Hitler, he kicked him out of his presence. Besides actual afflictions, there have been rumors of supposed ailments that have really no basis for truth. According to Hans Gatzke in his article, Hitler and Psychohistory, he supposedly had a sexual fetish for urine and feces, which was pretty unfounded because there's no first-hand witnesses to say that he did, and the rumor was started by Otto Strasser, his political opponent, who probably just started to deface him. Another supposed ailment that Hitler had was menorchism, which is the physical a deformity in which a man lacks a testicle. This was pretty unfounded too, as there was no real basis. There's no evidence for that. I mean, they supposedly recovered his body from Berlin after the war, but the body would have been so burned that there would have been no way to actually tell. Now that I've talked about his health, I want to talk about Eva Braun, his mistress. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, she was born February 6, 1912, which makes her 13 years younger than Hitler. They met at the shop of Hitler's photographer, where she worked as an assistant. He asked her to several parties, but she always initiated the conversation. At 21, she threatened to commit suicide unless they became more of a relationship, and him wanting to avoid a scandal allowed her to be his mistress. They were never seen together in public, and she always stayed at his house in either Munich or Berchtesgaden. She had no influence on him politically, but she was fanatically loyal to him. Hitler liked pretty dumb women, and she did the role pretty good. Against Hitler's orders, she joined him in his Berlin air raid shelter in the last days of the war, where they were married and a few days later committed suicide together. Now for my final point, the mysterious last days in the air raid shelter in Berlin. According to Robert Work, who interviewed Hannah Reich, a pilot that was present for a time in the shelter, this was where Hitler learned of Hermann Göring's treason, his attempt to usurp Hitler's power, and also the treason of Himmler, the head of the SS, who sold out Hitler to end the war to avoid implication with Hitler's crimes. Many Germans wanted him to flee Berlin and to set up base in another city, but he said that he wanted to defend Berlin to the last, and he didn't want to abandon the troops that were still defending it. Before capture, everyone in the shelter was given a vial of poison, was instructed to take it and to somehow destroy their bodies before they were captured. Among the people there were Eva Braun, the Goebbels family, which was a high-ranking family, and other high-ranking Nazi officials. Even days before the shelter was infiltrated, Hitler had hoped for reinforcements from a General Wenck, but due to a lack of communication, Hitler had no idea that Wenck's army had been totally decimated weeks ago. There have been rumors and conspiracy theories that Hitler somehow survived and escaped to Tyrol, a German city, the place that Hannah Reich fled to shortly before the shelter was captured. But she denies all implication that Hitler may have done this, saying that he had neither will or reason to live, and he was so physically weak he couldn't have escaped. In conclusion, Hitler was evil, but he was just a mortal person. He suffered from physical ailments, he had companionship, and he believed in something so much that he was willing to die for, though horrible and wrong that might have been. In short, I told you about his physical ailments, and Eva Braun, and his last days, in order that you could know about Hitler more as a person